Under the southern lights, Jungkook and Jimin's midnight confession Milky Way red heart hash the wind tore through the icy expanse, whipping Jimin's hair across his eyes as he stumbled on the frost-crusted rocks. "Wait, don't move." Jungkook's voice cracked with urgency, reverberating across the frozen cliffs. His hand shot out, grasping Jimin's shoulder just as a shard of ice dislodged from above, thundering onto the stone where he had been seconds before. Jimin froze, his chest heaving, heart hammering against ribs that felt too small for the adrenaline coursing through him. The aurora stretched across the sky like molten silk, green and violet streaks dancing above the desolate southern horizon. The lights were hypnotic, almost cruelly beautiful, and yet none of it could calm the storm between them. "Do you even realize how reckless that was?" Jungkook's voice was low, sharp with a mix of fear and frustration. His hands lingered on Jimin's arms, trembling not from the cold, but from the sudden intimacy, the closeness that both terrified and exhilarated him. Jimin's breath misted in the air, warm against the frozen night, and for a moment, neither moved. Jimin's eyes flicked toward the horizon, toward the faint glimmer of the research station lights far below. I needed to see it," he admitted, voice barely a whisper, as if the confession itself might shatter the fragile barrier between them. His hand brushed against Jungkook's, accidental but electric, sending jolts through nerves neither wanted to name. The silence stretched, broken only by the distant crack of shifting ice. Jungkook's jaw clenched. He had spent years burying feelings he didn't even dare to define, but the proximity, the danger, the relentless beauty of the southern lights, it all demanded honesty. And yet, honesty terrified him more than the cliffs ever could. "You always do this," Jungkook muttered, his fingers tightening slightly. "You push the edge, and I'm supposed to just follow?" The words were harsh, but his eyes, dark pools reflecting the aurora above, told a different story. A story of longing, of fear, of a confession that had been simmering far too long. Jimin stepped closer despite the icy wind, unafraid now. "Follow," he whispered, voice catching, lips barely moving. "Kook. I've been trying to pull you closer. But maybe I've been scared too, scared that you'd pull away before I could tell you." The words hung in the night, mingling with the scent of frost and ozone, and Jungkook's walls cracked. For the first time, he saw it, not just Jimin, but the truth of their connection, raw and untamed. The jealousy he'd felt, the protective instinct, the late nights of silent messages and unsent confessions, it all boiled down to this single, impossible moment under the southern lights. "I'm not going anywhere," Jungkook breathed, almost inaudible, yet fierce in its certainty. His hand cupped Jimin's cheek, fingers brushing ice crystals from the tender skin, and for a heartbeat, the world narrowed to the curve of his lips, the trembling of Jimin's hands against his chest, and the ethereal aurora that seemed to approve of everything unsaid. The night stretched on, time slowing as emotions tangled with the raw wind. Memories, fears, and desires collided. Jungkook's old guilt, Jimin's lingering doubts, the weight of fame and secrets pressing on them from all sides. And yet, in that suspended moment, all of it fell away. There was only the heat of shared breaths, the soft tremor in each other's voice, and the overwhelming, impossible truth. They had always belonged here, together, on the edge of the world, under lights that promised revelation. "I don't know how to do this," Jimin admitted, voice raw with vulnerability. "But I know I can't lose you tonight. Not to fear, not to the cold, not to silence." Jungkook leaned in, forehead pressing against his, heartbeat synchronizing. "Then don't," he whispered, and the aurora above swirled like liquid confession, painting the sky with their hidden truths. The world could wait. The cliffs, the wind, the endless night, they were theirs. And for the first time, words felt insufficient for the gravity of what passed between them, but their hearts understood perfectly. The southern lights danced overhead, a silent witness to their midnight confession, a promise that no matter how far, how cold, or how dangerous the world might be, some bonds were unbreakable, illuminated in emerald fire, raw as the frozen cliffs, eternal as the night sky itself. The wind howled across the icy plateau, carrying a chill that bit deeper than mere frost. Jungkook's fingers still lingered on Jimin's wrist, the warmth of his touch a fragile shield against the night's unforgiving bite. "You're shaking," Jungkook muttered, voice low, almost possessive. His thumb traced circles over the back of Jimin's hand, and Jimin flinched, not from cold, but from the intensity of the attention. "I'm not," Jimin started, but his voice faltered. The truth hovered on the edge of his lips, unspoken yet screaming in his chest. Just scared, he admitted finally, eyes darting to the jagged horizon. He hated admitting weakness, hated the trembling that betrayed him, but with Jungkook this close, honesty was unavoidable. Jungkook's grip tightened, not harshly, but enough to anchor them both. Scared of what? He pressed, brows drawn together, heart thrumming with a mix of anxiety and longing. Jimin hesitated, the weight of unspoken words pressing down like the night itself of losing you, or never being enough. Jimin whispered, voice breaking. Every time I try to get closer, I feel like I'm pushing too hard, like I'll ruin everything between us. His gaze fell to the glacial ground, avoiding Jungkook's penetrating eyes, but Jungkook didn't let him look away. You think I'm fragile? Jungkook's laugh was humorless, a low, sharp sound that carried both disbelief and affection. You think I'd let you ruin us? Do you have any idea how long I've been holding back? How many nights I've stared at my phone, wondering if you feel the same way? His hand slid from Jimin's wrist to his face, tilting it gently upward until their eyes locked. Do you really think I'd let fear decide for us? Jimin's breath caught. His pulse was erratic, a chaotic rhythm that matched the aurora's ethereal dance above. I don't know, he admitted, voice trembling. I've been fighting myself for months, trying not to. He stopped abruptly as a gust of wind tore through, nearly knocking him off balance. Jungkook's hands were immediately on him, steadying, protective, fierce. You're not fighting anything alone, Jungkook said, eyes dark, unwavering. Whatever this is, whatever we are, we face it together. No more secrets. His voice dropped to a whisper, the intensity of it sending shivers down Jimin's spine. Do you understand? Jimin nodded, the fight in him dissolving into the heat of proximity, the undeniable pull between them. I understand, but there's still so much. He stopped again, aware of the vulnerability in his confession. Jungkook's thumb brushed a tear from his cheek before Jimin could hide it. Then let me help you, Jungkook whispered. His lips hovered just above Jimin's, close enough that the warmth of his breath brushed against Jimin's skin. We can figure it out, together. The moment was electric, the tension between them almost unbearable. Yet the night wasn't finished testing them. A sudden rumble of ice shifting echoed through the plateau, making the ground beneath their feet tremble. Both froze, eyes wide, adrenaline surging. The danger was real, deathly real, and yet, somehow, it only intensified the magnetic pull between them. Jimin's voice was barely audible. We need to move, now. His hand found Jungkook's, gripping it tightly. They scrambled across the uneven terrain, boots slipping, breaths sharp and ragged. Jungkook kept a protective arm around Jimin, holding him close as they navigated the treacherous ice. The aurora's glow painted their faces in surreal hues of green and violet, highlighting every fear, every desire, every confession that had been waiting in the dark. Finally, they reached a small outcropping, a jagged ledge that offered temporary safety. Both collapsed against the rock, hearts hammering, lungs burning. Silence fell between them, but it was no longer tense. It was shared, intimate, loaded with everything they had been too scared to say. Impossible, Jimin breathed, shaking his head, a small, wry smile breaking through the tension. You're reckless, stubborn, and completely insane. Jungkook laughed softly, brushing snow from Jimin's hair. And you love it, he replied, tone teasing but edged with sincerity. He leaned closer, forehead resting against Jimin's, their breaths mingling in the frigid air. I know you do. Jimin's chest rose and fell rapidly, emotions crashing over him in waves of fear, relief, and longing. Maybe I do, he admitted, voice breaking. The confession was raw, unguarded, more intimate than either had dared in months of stolen glances and half-finished sentences. Jungkook's hand slid to the back of Jimin's neck, pulling him into a tentative, fiery kiss. It was brief, yet it carried the weight of months of tension, secret glances, and unsent messages. Every touch, every brush of lips was a battle, a surrender, a promise all at once. They broke apart, foreheads still pressed together, breath mingling in the cold night. We should get back, Jungkook murmured, though neither of them wanted to move, neither wanted to leave this suspended, perfect moment. Jimin nodded reluctantly. Yeah, but, Jungkook, his voice trembled, hesitant. Promise me, no more secrets. No more holding back. I promise, Jungkook replied, and the conviction in his tone left no room for doubt. From now on, everything, all of it, we face together. The aurora shimmered above, indifferent yet mesmerizing, as if blessing the confession that had unfolded beneath it. And in that cold, dangerous, impossibly beautiful place, Jungkook and Jimin realized something neither had expected. Fear could bring them closer, danger could ignite desire, and honesty, finally, fully, could be the most intoxicating thrill of all. They didn't speak again as they descended the plateau, the wind biting, the ice shifting beneath their feet. Their hands remained entwined, a tangible connection against the peril of the world, a shared heartbeat that promised, for the first time, that they were no longer alone in the night. The southern lights faded into the horizon behind them, but the heat of confession, desire, and unspoken promises burned brighter than any aurora could. The research station's fluorescent lights were harsh, sterile, and completely at odds with the aurora-lit night Jungkook and Jimin had just escaped. The scent of melted snow and burnt coffee clung to the hallways as they stepped inside, boots crunching on wet tiles. Jungkook's hand found Jimin's immediately, gripping it like an anchor. He could still feel the warmth, the lingering electricity from the plateau. "Do you think anyone saw us out there?" Jimin's voice trembled slightly, both from cold and something else: anticipation, adrenaline, a lingering awareness of how dangerously close they had come to crossing invisible lines. His gaze flicked to Jungkook, sharp, searching, unsure whether to hope or fear. "Does it matter?" Jungkook replied, his tone low, dangerous, like a warning wrapped in silk. His eyes scanned the hallway, then dropped to Jimin's face, unrelenting. "Right now, it's just us. No one else exists tonight." Jimin's breath hitched at the intensity. "You make it sound so easy." "It's never easy," Jungkook said, his thumb brushing against the back of Jimin's hand, lingering over the warmth beneath his glove. "But that's what makes it worth it." The words carried more weight than mere flirtation. They were a confession, a challenge, an unspoken promise. The station was mostly deserted, the others asleep in their rooms or huddled in common areas. Yet every shadow felt alive, every distant creak of the structure a reminder of how exposed they were. They entered the kitchen area, lights dimmed, the hum of the refrigerator the only sound. Jungkook pulled out 2 mugs of steaming coffee, the aroma filling the confined space. "You don't have to do that," Jimin murmured, brushing a hand against his own chest, feeling the rapid thrum of his heartbeat. "I can manage." Jungkook handed him a mug anyway, fingers brushing briefly, electric, intimate. "I know you can, but I like taking care of you," he said, voice low, almost a growl. "I like knowing I'm the one keeping you warm when the world's trying to freeze us out." Jimin's lips parted, breath-catching. The words were reckless, bold, dangerous. You really mean that?" he asked, voice husky. His own hands trembled slightly as he lifted the mug, the heat seeping into his fingers, grounding him yet making him painfully aware of Jungkook's proximity. "I've meant it for months," Jungkook admitted, leaning closer, eyes dark, magnetic. "Do you know how long I've wanted this? Wanted you? Not just here, not just now, but every moment we've been apart." The confession hung heavy between them, charged with tension and desire. Jimin swallowed hard, trying to find footing in the storm of emotion, heat, and fear. I've been scared too," he admitted, words rushed, trembling. "Scared you wouldn't feel the same, scared of what could happen if we," he trailed off, voice faltering under the weight of the thought. "You don't have to be scared anymore," Jungkook said, stepping closer until their shoulders brushed. "Whatever happens, we face it together." His hand slid around Jimin's waist, pulling him slightly closer, the warmth of their bodies a stark contrast to the cold and danger outside. Jimin shivered, not from cold, but from the sudden intimacy, the undeniable pull that made it impossible to think clearly. "But everyone would notice," he whispered, voice raw, filled with a mixture of panic and longing. "The others, they'd see, people would talk." "I don't care," Jungkook said firmly, his gaze unyielding. "I care about you. That's it. The rest, they can deal with it. We deal with this, together." The words ignited something deep within Jimin, a mix of relief, fear, and desire so intense it was almost overwhelming. He leaned in instinctively, brushing his forehead against Jungkook's, heart racing against heart. "You're reckless," he murmured, breath hot against Jungkook's cheek. dangerous, and completely impossible to resist. Jungkook laughed softly, a low, intimate sound that reverberated in Jimin's chest. And you love that, don't you? His hands moved deliberately, sliding from Jimin's waist to his back, pulling him fully against his body. Their proximity left no room for doubt, no room for hesitation. Maybe I do, Jimin admitted, voice breaking, trembling under the weight of confession and desire. His hands found Jungkook's shoulders, clinging, needing, desperate for the heat and reassurance that radiated from him. Jungkook's lips brushed Jimin's temple, lingering, teasing, dangerous. Then don't fight it, he whispered, voice husky, low. Not tonight. Not ever. Just, let me in. The tension snapped, uncoiling in a heated, desperate kiss that consumed them both. It was fierce, possessive, tender all at once. Jimin's hands tangled in Jungkook's hair, tugging him closer, while Jungkook's palms pressed firmly against Jimin's back, grounding, claiming, protecting. The world beyond the walls of the station ceased to exist. There was only them, only heat, only desire and confession intertwined in a raw, unstoppable force. When they finally broke apart, breath mingling, hearts hammering in unison, the air felt electric, alive with unspoken promises and the thrill of danger. You're impossible, Jimin whispered, cheeks flushed, body still pressed against Jungkook's. And you are completely mine tonight, Jungkook replied, tone low, intimate, certain. His forehead rested against Jimin's, eyes closing briefly as if memorizing the moment. No one else. Just us. Jimin's fingers traced the line of Jungkook's jaw, a tender contrast to the heat that had just consumed them. Then, don't ever let me go, he murmured, voice trembling with need, fear, and hope all at once. Jungkook smiled, dark and fierce, a predator and protector all in one. Never, he promised. I'll be with you, through every storm, every cliff, every night. You have no idea how long I've been waiting for this. Outside, the wind rattled the windows, carrying the scent of ice and the faint whisper of the southern lights far beyond the horizon. But inside, the room was theirs, burning with desire, confession, and a reckless, unstoppable love that refused to be hidden any longer. And in that fragile, fleeting moment, Jimin realized something undeniable. Jungkook wasn't just a flame in the cold night. He was the wildfire that consumed every fear, every restraint, every hesitation, leaving only raw, uncontainable truth. The storm outside had worsened, howling against the reinforced glass of the research station, rattling the walls as if the Antarctic itself were conspiring to push them to the edge. Jungkook paced the narrow hallway, hands shoved deep into the pockets of his coat, jaw tight with frustration. The wind's roar made the space feel smaller, claustrophobic, and every creak of the building amplified the tension between them. Jimin followed, a step behind, heart still racing from the night's confessions, cheeks flushed from more than just the cold. Kook, you're overthinking, he said, voice barely above the roar outside. It's just a storm. We're safe. Safe. Jungkook barked, stopping abruptly and spinning to face him. Safe. Do you have any idea how dangerous that plateau was? One wrong step, one slip, and he cut off, breathing heavily, but the fire in his eyes didn't diminish. You think I'm just going to let you throw yourself off a cliff for a stupid view? Jimin stepped closer, his own anger rising despite the adrenaline. I'm not a child, Jungkook. I can take care of myself. His hands flew up, trembling from a mix of fear and passion. Stop treating me like I'm fragile. Jungkook's expression softened for just a second, then hardened again. I'm not treating you like anything, he said, voice low, simmering. I'm protecting the one person who actually matters right now. Don't you get it? I can't afford to lose you. Not to Frost, not to danger, and certainly not to yourself. Jimin's breath caught, his chest rising and falling rapidly as the weight of Jungkook's words hit him. There was something in those eyes, raw, unflinching desire, fierce protectiveness, and a vulnerability that mirrored his own. Then, why do you push me away sometimes? He asked, voice trembling. Why do you hold back, even when I can see how much you want me? Jungkook's shoulders slumped slightly, the fight draining out of him for a moment. Because, he started, eyes darkening, jaw tight. Because I'm scared. Scared of hurting you. Scared of crossing lines I can't take back, scared of losing control. His words were a confession, a trembling admission laid bare in the middle of the storm. Jimin stepped closer, bridging the small distance between them, his hand brushing against Jungkook's chest. "And yet, here you are," he whispered, voice hoarse, eyes glinting with unshed tears and raw desire. "Here you are, in front of me. Do you know what that does to me?" Jungkook's breath hitched at the intensity, the heat in Jimin's gaze igniting something deep within him. "You're dangerous," he murmured, his hand sliding to Jimin's waist, pulling him flush against his body. "Every look, every word. You make it impossible to think straight." Jimin shivered, both from cold and the overwhelming closeness. "Then don't think," he said softly, lips brushing Jungkook's ear. "Just feel me. Right here. Right now." The tension snapped in a rush of heat and motion. Jungkook's hands moved possessively over Jimin's back, pressing him into the wall of the narrow hallway as their mouths met in a desperate, urgent kiss. The storm outside mirrored the storm within them, wild, relentless, consuming. Jimin's hands tangled in Jungkook's hair, tugging him closer, while Jungkook's grip was both grounding and possessive, asserting ownership without words. When they finally pulled apart, gasping for breath, the world outside seemed impossibly distant. Jimin's forehead rested against Jungkook's chest, feeling the steady thrum of his heartbeat beneath his lips. "You're insane," he murmured, voice shaking. "Completely reckless and insane." Jungkook chuckled darkly, brushing a strand of wet hair from Jimin's face. "And you are the only one who can match me," he said, voice low, almost a growl. "The only one who can make me lose my mind and still want to stay sane. You understand that?" Jimin lifted his head slightly, eyes glinting with defiance and desire. "I think I do," he admitted, voice raw. "And the scary part is that I like it. I like this chaos, as long as it's with you." Jungkook's hands traced the curve of Jimin's face, thumb brushing over his lips as if memorizing every line, every shadow, every tremor. "Then stop fighting it," he whispered, leaning in so close their breaths mingled. "Let me in. Let me have you, completely. No games. No secrets. No holding back." The words were a challenge, an invitation, and a promise all at once. Jimin's hands pressed against Jungkook's chest, trembling from the storm inside and out. I don't know if I can handle this," he admitted, voice breaking. "It's too much." Jungkook smiled, dark and fierce, leaning down to press a tender kiss against Jimin's temple. "Then let me carry you," he whispered. "Let me shoulder it with you. Whatever comes, whatever happens, we face it together." A sudden crash of wind rattled the station, and both flinched, but neither moved apart. Instead, they held each other tighter, two hearts beating in synchrony against the roaring chaos of the world outside. In that moment, all fear, all doubt, all danger dissolved, leaving only the raw, blazing truth between them. They belonged together, reckless and unstoppable, even when the world tried to tear them apart. Jimin tilted his head up, meeting Jungkook's gaze with a boldness that surprised even himself. "Then, show me. Show me what it means to be yours. Right here. Right now." Jungkook's lips curled into a dark, knowing smile. "With pleasure," he murmured, pulling Jimin into an embrace that left no room for hesitation, no room for regret, only the wild, consuming fire of desire and confession beneath the storm. And as the winds howled and the station groaned, two souls collided in perfect chaos, every kiss, every touch, every whispered word a declaration of everything they had been too scared to say, and everything they would never let go of. The storm had finally passed. The wind's howl diminished to a whisper, leaving the Antarctic night eerily still. The southern lights still lingered faintly on the horizon, their green and violet streaks a gentle echo of the chaos and passion that had consumed Jungkook and Jimin these past nights. They stood at the edge of the plateau once more, side by side, fingers intertwined, hearts still racing from confessions, fear, and the reckless intimacy that had drawn them closer than ever. The world around them was vast, frozen, indifferent, but in that moment, nothing mattered except the fragile warmth between them. Jimin leaned into Jungkook, resting his head against his shoulder, eyes reflecting the fading aurora. I thought I'd never be able to say it," he whispered, voice trembling but steady, "but I can't imagine keeping us, secret anymore." Jungkook wrapped an arm around him, pulling him close, the warmth between them defying the cold that surrounded them. "You don't have to hide anything," he said softly, pressing a gentle kiss to the top of Jimin's head. "Not now, not ever. We've survived cliffs, storms, and our own fears. We can survive anything together." Jimin tilted his head, searching Jungkook's face, his lips curving into a soft, tentative smile. "Together," he echoed, voice firm, full of promise. No matter what. The tension that had haunted them, the fear of exposure, the danger of the icy cliffs, the weight of unspoken desire finally dissolved into a calm certainty. There was no longer doubt, no longer hesitation. Only trust, passion, and an unshakable bond forged in the frozen extremes of the world and in the fire of shared confessions. Jungkook's hand cupped Jimin's cheek, thumb brushing a lingering trace of ice from his skin. "I'll always be here," he murmured, voice low, intimate. "Through every storm, every risk, every impossible moment. I'm yours, and you're mine." Jimin's lips met his in a tender, lingering kiss, a kiss that carried months of hidden longing, fear, and finally, the relief of truth. When they parted, their foreheads rested together, breaths mingling, hearts synchronized. The southern lights above shimmered one last time, a silent witness to their journey, the fear, the desire, the confessions, and the love that had burned bright and unwavering through it all. And as the first hints of dawn began to touch the horizon, Jungkook and Jimin stood together, unbroken, unafraid, and utterly inseparable. In a world of ice and shadows, they had found a fire that could never be extinguished. Beneath the fading aurora, they didn't need words anymore. Everything had been said in glances, touches, and the unrelenting truth between their hearts. They turned back toward the station, hands still entwined, knowing that whatever storms the world might throw at them next, they would face them together, fearless, unshakable, and entirely, undeniably, in love. The night had ended. The southern lights faded. But their story, raw, tender, and eternal, would burn forever.